Welcome back to the Talk It Out podcast. My name's Dan from UK Bike Fit, and today we've got Jen, also from UK Bike Fit, physio and bike fitter. And last time we did a podcast with Jen, we got told off in the comments for going off on a rant. So we're going to try and keep this one on topic.
Sorry.
And on form. So today we are going to talk about common bike fit problems that we come across, specifically with women struggling to find frames and components that actually fit them, and why that's a problem, what needs to change to make it a better experience for women and to help women ride more bikes comfortably. Because we see a lot of women for bike fits and sizings who are have this problem, and I think a lot of people just don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So let's shed some light on it. So first thing we'll talk about is frames, like actually getting a bike that is the right size and geometry for women, and particularly short women have these issues.
People, I would say, probably about 90% of the women that I see for a pre-purchase sizing are small women so they're short, like probably below 5'3" or so, and they've struggled to find a bike, like they've never been comfortable on a bike in the past, or they're just struggling to find a bike that's the right size for them. Maybe they've been to the shops and like tried a few on and they were all like mediums or whatever. Yeah. And they're struggling to find a bike a frame size that's the right size for them, and that's why they end up here.
Yeah, so we do an appointment called pre-purchase sizing, where if you're looking to buy a new bike, you can come in and then ride our adjustable fitting jig. If you're watching on YouTube, it's behind us here. You can come in, ride that. We can adjust that frame to your body and make it specific to your body, geometry and riding position, and then we'll take the measurements off of that and we'll have a look and see what bikes actually show up to be in the same fit. So like you say, we see a lot of women for that issue specifically. And
lots of them have had a bike before and they've never been comfy because they don't know what the right size bike for them is. They've usually had one that's too big. And
therefore when they want to buy their next bike, they want to make sure it's perfect for them. So they come in, ride the bike, get them in a good position, take the measurements off the jig. Yeah. Then what do we do with the measurements and what problems do we come up against?
So then basically, if you're a really short woman, there's like two bikes that you can buy. That's the first problem, is that most bikes, even their smallest sizes, they're made for small men, and small women are smaller than small men in general. And so, there's pretty much the smallest live sizes, or Canyon go down to like a 2 or 3 extra small in some of their bikes. And that's pretty much it if you're a short woman looking for a bike frame. Yeah,
there's absolute truffle choice of bikes. There's nothing out there. If you
and that's probably why they've had because Canyon, you can't go into a shop and try a Canyon anyway, you can only buy direct from them, so that's probably why they've had a bike that's too big in the past, because essentially unless they've got a Liv, which is actually still a fairly new-ish brand, then you've probably had a bike that's too big for you.
Yeah. So there's just there isn't the selection there.
No.
Like you basically, if you're interested in buying that frame for the fit, which everyone should be as bike fitters, but everyone should be.
But it's a bit crap as a bike fitter as well. You're just like, okay, oh look, if you're a 5'8" man, you can literally have it usually comes up actually with saying too many, be more specific, doesn't it?
Results.
And then literally, if you're a 5'2" woman, it's like, no, there's 3 bikes you can have.
Yeah. And Canyon and Liv are definitely the two brands that stand out as offering something for those people in those sizes. Like you say, Canyon do down to a very small size in their bikes, and then Liv have geometry and sizes specifically for smaller people.
So their extra small is generally a lot smaller than someone else's extra small.
Yeah. So those are the sort of two options. So
I'm 5'5", and on a Scott I'm riding extra small.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing underneath that.
Yeah. Yeah, 5'5" isn't that small.
No, it's actually the average height for a woman in Britain. Because someone just got me small once, I googled.
Am I small?
No, it just was like, what's the average height for a woman? I was like, bang on average, that's me.
Well, congratulations.
Great. But and my specialised is a 49 frame, so you can't really get loads smaller than that.
No.
And there are plenty of people out there smaller than me.
Yeah. So that's the first issue. And then, like you say, a lot of people who don't go through this process of sizing before they buy a bike don't realise that. They'll just think, oh, I'm small, I'll just go for the smallest frame I can get. And normally, if that brand doesn't offer anything super small, the bike's too big and the fit is compromised and your position's terrible, and then you start to develop a lot of aches and pains and problems based around
and
that.
cycling's not fun then.
Exactly. So we're going to talk, we've spoken about frames, we're going to talk about certain components on bikes that also potentially pose a big problem and problems that we see all the time when we're doing bike fits. But what are the main pain points and comfort issues that you see small women particularly struggling with in a bike fit?
All the time. I mean, for women, like, we sit differently on a saddle to men, like, and anatomically we're different. So we, you know, where we're sitting on our soft tissue, that isn't just skin. So for women, if you're sitting in that area, like, that's going to really pose a problem to you. And if your bike's too big, then you're probably sitting towards the front of the saddle so that you can reach the end of the bike. And your crank length is probably too long, so you've probably got an issue with your saddle height as well. So no matter what saddle you put on the bike, it's not going to be comfortable. And yes, some saddles might be slightly comfier. And, you know, as a woman who I've had issues with saddles before, that just makes riding a bike the absolute pits.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the main point, isn't it? Is that if you start off with a frame size that is suboptimal, more than likely too big, then
we can't do anything.
You can't change the frame.
We can make bits smaller, as small as you want, but then you're still not. Like I say, if it's a length problem, let's say the bike's too long and you start shuffling towards the front of the saddle and getting really uncomfortable saddle, you can shorten the stem to a point, but there's going to be it's going to turn into a very poorly handling bike at some point, because you've just got a stem length that's ridiculously too short. And then that poses other problems, and you're always compromising for something, and that something is the lack of frame size choice for small women. So talking about components then, let's say we have a woman come in, do pre-purchase sizing, we get the frame that's the perfect size for them, we've actually found a model that fits them, they go out, buy the bike, and then bring it back for a bike fit. What components come with these bikes that are normally wrong, need to be swapped out to create comfort? Cranks are too long. Handlebars are too wide. They're all coming with handlebars that are too wide. Why is no one making 36 and 38 handlebars just stock on a bike? Like, I ride 36 handlebars, but that's not wildly, I'm not doing that for aero or for anything. That's just the most comfortable thing. And I have fairly broad shoulders from a lifetime of swimming, and that's the most comfortable thing for me. I don't understand, like, so you're having to take the handlebars off and you're having to change, and cranks can be expensive. They're all coming with, like, even 165 cranks. Like, tall men are riding 165 cranks. Exactly. So yes, that is smaller than the medium frames that are coming with 172.5, but we've got shorter legs. I need a shorter crank.
So talking about cranks then, the shortest stock Shimano crank now, which has only recently been the case since the 12-speed stuff came out, is 160, and 160 is only available in Ultegra, by the way. If you have a 105 bike, it's 165.
Cool.
So if you want a short crank, you need to spend more money and have a higher spec bike. Like, it's well, that's a slightly separate topic. But you're a short woman, you buy this bike that this frame size is particularly good for you, and it still comes with these components.
So you've only got you were allowed to choose between like 3 bikes. Two different, so there's like maybe 2 different sizes, 2 different models of Canyon and 2 different models of Liv. So you've got like a maximum 4 bikes to choose from. And then once you've bought it, you've got to change most of the things on it.
You have to spend £300.
Hopefully you didn't buy one with integrated bar and stem, because then you're having to buy a whole new.
We'll come on to that. But even just the cranks, starting off the cranks, £300 for a set of Ultegra cranks.
Wild.
If you want 160. If you need shorter than that, you're looking at third-party cranks, which can be cheaper, but hard to find, not much selection. And it's just a hassle and faff of having to take your cranks off, probably take it to a mechanic to make the change for you, do some online shopping, find the crank that fits your bottom bracket and have the chain rings that are the right size. And
you've probably paid for a bike fit as well to find out what the right size is.
You, all of these costs are just adding up after you've spent thousands of pounds on the bike itself initially. Like, how is that an attractive proposal for someone wanting to get into cycling if you're a woman, short woman, to get into cycling? Like, it just makes it so much harder.
And I mean, I will also add that even if you're a taller woman, the bikes are still just made for men. Women aren't just small men.
No, exactly.
Everyday sexism, man.
And the crank length thing, this is a industry-wide problem. Like, even on larger frames. Let's say larger frames, like, you know, medium 54, 56 is that type of thing. Still coming with 172.5 cranks, 175 crank, like the whole crank length thing.
But at least you can actually buy the right size cranks for you. Whereas, like, people my size and below, we can't actually purchase the correct size. And if we do, like you say, we've got to get Ultegra when, you know, you've bought a bike so that you can just go out and enjoy riding. You don't necessarily need Ultegra. You're not doing it for performance-based things. You just...
And we know that shorter cranks exist and where to get them and what their compatibility, but it's not common knowledge. It's hard to find if you're a cyclist looking for that information. So, nightmare. Bars and stem. Most bikes now are integrated at the front end in some way or form, whether it's a one-piece cockpit or at least a two-piece bar and stem, but still with cables that are internal. So changing those components is now more expensive, harder work, takes more time.
Bike manufacturers like only making a really stupid size for the stem, so that you only have to buy this 1 1/8. Like, you can't just buy a stock stem.
No. Canyon, having praised them for their small sizes, are awful for bars and stem. Their cockpits are... You can only get a short stem if you want a narrow bar, or a long stem if you want a wide bar. You can't have a long stem and a narrow bar because that combination surely can't exist. They're always out of stock. They're mega expensive. Sort it out, Canyon. But again, if you buy a small frame size, like you said before, they come stock with bars that are disproportionately wide to that frame size, which just doesn't make sense. And again, it's another expensive change for someone to have to make.
And again, if you're buying a gravel bike, they've probably got bars that are even wider than the road bikes. My shoulders haven't changed in width just because I bought a gravel bike.
So the main pain point I think you've already mentioned that women struggle with is saddles. So what saddles, like if someone's, again, go out and bought this bike that is supposedly the perfect size for them, what saddles are they coming with? What's the issues with them? And are there any better options out there, and what are they?
I mean, some people are really lucky and the stock saddle that they get is just perfect for them. There's a lot of like women specific saddles out there, which I will just say now I believe is a marketing ploy. I've put a women specific saddle on men in here and they've ended up buying it and then thought that I'd sent them the wrong saddle, but I haven't. They just are better on a women specific saddle. And also I think people are often led by, and it's, I get it, like there's nothing out there to work out what's the right saddle for you unless you like literally come for saddle pressure mapping. But like people will see online like, oh, this is a women's saddle, or loads of women, like this has worked for them, but everybody is different. Everybody's physiology is different. Everybody's biomechanics is different. What works for one woman will not work for another woman. So like the main things you need to think about are like the width of your saddle, the shape, and then I've always ridden a cutout, but I know lots of the women's specific saddles have now got like the mimic
like filled in.
I can't tell you whether I would like that or not because I found my saddle with a cutout.
This is it. There just seems to be women's specific frames are like few and far between now. I remember Cannondale, a few years ago, Cannondale brought out a women's specific model of their Super 6, I think it was.
My Specialized, my older Mira, that was a women's specific bike, and that came with 38 handlebars. But they don't do that anymore.
No.
And that's essentially was like a women's specific, like tarmac, basically.
Yeah. And you know, women's specific, like Liv as a brand, when it's done well, it's great.
Yeah.
This Cannondale Super 6 that they brought out a few years ago, we're probably talking 2020, 2019, something like that. The geometry of the frame was exactly the same as the unisex men's frame. So the shape of the frame was no different, the size was no different. It was champagne coloured. It came,
oh my god, this is going to make me angry.
It's going to make you angry. This will make you angry. It came with a wide saddle and 50-34 chain rings instead of 52-36, because a woman can't possibly push a 52 chain ring. That was their women's specific model. Wide saddle, champagne coloured, small chain rings.
Yeah, fuming.
We're going to have to cancel the podcast because Jen can't speak. Jen wants to swear. Yeah, mental. So when women's specific stuff is done well, it's great. When it's done,
and I must say, off the shelf, that Amira, like, I still ride it now. It's from 2017. That's my favourite bike because it came off the shelf like so much better than any other bike. It came with narrow handlebars. It came with shorter cranks. It was the first bike that I'd ever ridden where I was like, this is comfortable. I don't have to go and, like, the bike I'd got before that is basically like everything on it is different apart from the frame because I'd had to change so much stuff. And I remember literally sitting on that bike and being like, oh, that's amazing, but that bike they stopped making it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ages ago. I don't know why.
So, okay, so to summarise then, what are the things that need to change to make cycling more accessible to women in a way that, you know, when you're looking at buying a bike, it doesn't just totally put you off? You know, the podcast to go worldwide and all the brands actually listen to it and do something about it. We have a worldwide audience now, like it's a given. So the brands need to do better, basically. And
I would just say that if you are a smaller woman, before you buy a bike, you don't have to come to us, go to anyone who does a pre-purchase sizing or go and sit on a bike. Don't just buy an extra small, like the smallest frame that brands do, because it probably won't be small enough for you. And don't just expect that because you've been an extra small in everything that this extra small will be fine. Yeah.
I would also say, try and find a bike where you can just buy the frame set. Yeah. So you don't have to go and spend 100% money on taking off all your nice new shiny stem and bar and cranks and saddle and trying to flog them for next to nothing on eBay or Facebook. That's right. Build the bike up to what you want and choose each component. Yeah. Like, it will often be cheaper to do that, because there's loads of deals knocking around on group sets and bars and
of other people that are selling their stuff that they don't want.
Yeah, precisely. And then at the end of it, you end up with the bike, the first time the bike is built and ready to ride. It's perfect for you. You don't have to go through this time-consuming, money-grabbing expense of changing all these components to try and make the bike fit in the first place. So that would be my
definitely. And I, like, honestly, the first day I sat on that mirror, I was like, oh, wow, bikes can fit you.
It's like which it shouldn't be, but it's like an eye-opening, mind-blowing moment. Yeah, crazy. But ultimately, just brands be better.
Yeah, but I definitely think that's a really good tip, and I think people, again, if you're new to cycling, you don't realise that that's a thing that you can do either, is it?
No. Like, you just think, I'll buy a bike. Yeah. A bike needs wheels and a group set and bars and stuff. Like, I'll just buy the bike. Yeah. Whereas no, you can actually just
buy the frame pieces, and then buy the pieces to go with it, and you can make up your perfect bike. And if you can go somewhere for a sizing beforehand, you can try the different size bars, and you can try whether you want wider and narrower. You can try different size stems, so you know everything that you want before. Exactly. And again, that's actually in the long run saving you so much money, because you then have this list of everything that you want, and then you don't have to go away and basically get rid of everything that's on this bike you've spent a few £1,000s on. And buy loads of new stuff.
Exactly. And then
have to fit it all as well. Like,
unfit it all.
Hassle. No one's got time for that.
No. And if you have gone through that process and you've seen a bike fitter for a sizing, we do this, but I'm sure other bike fitters do the same. They will help guide you into what components you need and where to get it from. The bike fitter might even be able to source you some components themselves, or they'll tell you where to get them from. So you've got someone to like talk to who knows what they're talking about, and will make sure that
I think it's the way to go for every bike, really, not even just small bikes.
That is another podcast topic for sure. But the way we buy bikes is totally wrong, and it needs to change, and it will change. I'm sure of it. But we will definitely save that for another day. Otherwise, this is going to be an hour-long podcast. But
Jen went off on a rant about champagne bikes.
Yeah. So if you are watching, if you've struggled finding a small enough frame size or components that actually fit you, whether you're a small woman or a small man, but comment down below all the same and let us know what barriers you've come up against in trying to find bikes and components that actually work, and let us know, because we'll be interested to find out. If you have any other podcast topic ideas, leave them in the comments down below, and we may or may not get to them depending on how good the idea is. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can also find us on Spotify if you prefer that. So go and check us out on there, UK Bike Fit.